Some explosive claims coming from a founder of the Black Lives Matter chapter in St. Paul, Minnesota. In newly released video, Rashad Turner says he, quote, learned the ugly truth, end quote, about the organization.
I believe the organization stood for exactly what the name implies. Black lives do matter. However, after a year on the inside, I learned they had little concern for rebuilding black families, and they cared even less about improving the quality of education for students in Minneapolis.
Charlie Hurt, what burst onto the scene for that former supporter of Black Lives Matter, the organization, to have such an about-face about it?
Well, I think that he probably represents a lot of people who got sucked into the messaging of the organization that believes that, yes, you know, we don't want bad things happening to black suspects in police custody. We don't, you know, there was like a 99% support for doing anything that made policing safer for everybody involved. But they managed, these people that were involved in BLM managed to twist it around and politicize it to a degree that I don't think anybody expected. And it's all very, very simple. If you cared about black lives, why would you defund the police? If you cared about black lives, why would you take away security in black neighborhoods? If you cared about black lives, what would you do? You would try to encourage, you would try to do everything you could to give parents the ability to and options to send their kids to good schools that are safe and you know, made safe by good police officers. But that's not what this organization did. They politicized it. They did everything they could, you know, and you know, we saw it all summer long, and it began to dawn, I think, on a lot of people that, wow, you know, maybe their top priority isn't black lives here.
You know what's so interesting? So Jason Chaffetz told me last hour, Emily, some of what Charlie is saying is so true when it comes to the resources that should have been going and the advocacy from BLM, the organization, that should have been going to areas where black families live, particularly in the cities where the rioting was happening and black-owned businesses were being torn down in the process. But that's not what is happening now.
No, not at all. And I think from what we understand now, not only are the communities not receiving any type of support or funding from this organization, but neither are their local chapters. So there's actually this discernible tracing being cut off, that it was all somehow going to some central head. And obviously we'll learn more, I think, as investigations play out and more questions are asked. I also thought what was so disappointing to hear, so shocking, frankly, to hear, for example, Tamir Rice's mother said, they are hustling Black death, she said. They don't speak for me, and she said they won't even talk to us. And it blew my mind that there was such a departure from the birth of the movement that this organization was supposed to represent, that they wouldn't even communicate with the mothers and fathers of people who had lost their lives at the hands of an issue that this, again, organization was supposed to represent.
Yeah, hustling Black deaths, but they happen every day on streets of America, not at the hands of cops. So those don't even get talked about by this group and many others. Kaylee?
Yeah, they don't get talked about. We say their names here on the show, Sequoia Turner, Legend Talaferro, and they don't get talked about, and they should be talked about, because overwhelmingly we're seeing crime increase in the cities. We cover it here every day, and children losing their lives waiting in a McDonald's line, tragically. And to your point about Tamir Rice's mom, she went on to say, well, as you noted, she tried to contact the head of BLM multiple times. She said that she wanted Patrisse Cullors to help her reopen the investigation into her son, who was just 12 years old when he died. And the conversation fell off. And you had another mom say that the local branch raised $5,000 for her son's funeral, and she never saw a dime of it, she says. And they use the pictures, they use the names, but they don't help the families.
So, you know, I would... Gosh, I'd love to talk with these three co-founders from the beginning, and I realize Patrisse Cullors just quit.
Yes.
They're, you know, they're investigating, you know, how she came about to pay for all of her $1 million in homes, and if she earned it, great. But they just want to know, because she didn't necessarily have a salary from BLM, the org. But, you know, I'd love to ask those three women, were you equipped to handle the response that you got? Because sometimes, you know, you start something and you just have no idea how big it's going to become. But there's a difference, and Tommy, I come to you on this. There's a difference between what we now know is the movement of BLM and the organization.
Well, absolutely. When BLM started, I do believe that their intentions were pure. I do believe that they wanted to draw attention to what they saw as systemic racism and police brutality, which is a noble goal. And if that's what your organization wants to do and that's the activism you want to create, you have every right to do that. But then I think something very ugly happened. The money, the power, the fame, the pop culture notoriety got to the heads of these organizations, and they started seeing dollar signs where they used to see true activism. And then I believe what we've seen in the last couple of years, especially the last couple of elections, is you've seen the Democratic Party and the leaders of the Black Lives Matter organization come together in some kind of an unspoken bond, an unspoken pact. We'll raise you up on a pedestal. You will make money. We will make money. We'll work together. We'll make sure that we're exploiting people, exploiting their emotions, and exploiting what the true cause used to be to get everyone to flock in, to vote how we want them to vote, to donate where we want them to donate. And I still don't know, and I've posed this question several times. I'm not sure anyone really has an answer. When someone donates to Black Lives Matter, the organization, where does that money go?
Where does the money go?
And a year and a half later, and a year after George Floyd's death, what has BLM done to improve the lives in Black communities and any communities for that matter? What accomplishments can they tout? They've raised a lot of money. They've had a great presence. They've been bowed down to, put on this untouchable pedestal. And what have they really done for anybody besides themselves, besides political gain and a whole lot of money in somebody's pocket?
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.